Hello everyone and welcome to Lesson 50, where I'm going to introduce to you my version of a basic style guide. So let's get started. Okay, so behind me, these are the ideas behind my basic style guide. First of all, it's got to be short, it's got to be simple, and it's got to be something that you can keep close to your computer or monitor. Now, perhaps it could have been a bit shorter. You'll see it in just a few seconds. And if you support me on Patreon, you'll be able to download this and print it off and keep it by your computer or your monitor. But hopefully it's short enough and yet comprehensive enough to cover the main issues that I want you to be aware of as you are writing your documents. Other longer style guides will exist online or do exist online. So if you want to delve into this world of style guides, then I can link you towards one or two. If you support me on Patreon, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a bit more extensive coverage of links to other style guides and even to short style guides as well. Other options that you can print off and keep by your computer or by your monitor. My style guide deals with basic writing errors and the most common problems that non-native speakers of English have. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different to other style guides because the other style guides are written and the audience that they have is a native speaker. So I work predominantly with non-native speakers, and so there are one or two other things that they should be aware of, that non-native speakers should be aware of when they are writing. So my style guide will say one or two things about grammar. I'll tell you a little bit more in a second. And as I said at the beginning, if you support me on Patreon, you'll be able to download the style guide and start using it straight away. If you don't support me on Patreon, you're watching me on my other social media channels, I'll talk you through my style guide in a second, and you're always welcome to start supporting me on Patreon. I will update the style guide as needed in the future when I come up with different ideas. When you guys give me feedback, then I shall make those changes. Unfortunately, this video will stay the same. I'm not going to change this video. Social media, YouTube and so on won't let me. However, if you want to get access to my style guide and all of my other resources on my Patreon page, you're more than welcome to support me. Okay, so the first thing on my basic style guide is something for you to remember. Now, this is very, very close to the definition by the International Plain Language Federation as to what is a piece of plain language communication. Now, I've just changed one or two of the words, but 90% of this, if not more, of this definition that you can see behind me, or this thing that you have to remember, is from the International Plain Language Federation's definition of what is a plain language communication. So all credit goes to them. I shall link them below this video, so please go check out the IPLF. They do fantastic work to help spread the world of plain language communication. So I've put this on my style guide because I want you to remember why you are writing and what your writing has to be. So I stress here that it's a successful piece of writing. So a successful piece of writing is if its wording, structure and design are so clear that the intended readers, now I've highlighted intended readers because I want you to remember it's the person you're writing to that's more important than you as the writer. As I've said before, if you are writing in such a way that the reader can't understand, you're wasting your time and you're wasting the reader's time. So always bear in mind the reader. Okay, so clear that the intended readers can easily find what they need, understand what they find, and use that information. That's what you've got to bear in mind when you are writing, that the reader can find what they need, understand what they find, and use that information. So bearing that important piece of advice in mind, how do you draft a successful piece of writing? Here we go into the next two parts of my style guide. Now, I apologize for the small text behind me. Hopefully you'll be able to see the text on YouTube. If you make the screen a lot larger, hopefully you'll be able to see it. I want what I've done here is I've presented a number of questions that you have to ask yourself. This helps you go through a planning process. This helps you think about your message before you start writing, and then afterwards it goes through a limited review process as well. So once you start asking yourself these questions, you start going through these ideas and you do it once, then it might take you some time, but the more that you do this within a week, within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, within 4 weeks, within months, hopefully a lot sooner than that, it will become a lot easier and it will become a lot faster and it will become a habit. So the questions you want to ask yourself are, what is my main message? Before you start writing and at the beginning of your planning process, what is my main message? What do I want to communicate? And then what are my supporting messages? And I want you to write them out as if you're saying them out loud, as if you're explaining to someone. So Bob has got to do this. Just like that. And normally when you say things out loud, you say them in the active voice, which is why I want you to write it down as if you're saying it out loud. Then I want you to think of the strong verbs that will communicate your messages. What will they be? And I've put some examples up here of common ones. Send, amend, revise, consider, implement, change, ask. Think of strong verbs that will communicate your message. Now, here I want you to think about the grammar, okay? So, which grammar will help me and the reader? Now, I've done a lesson about this, about grammar flexibility, and the impact different grammar forms have on the reader, how the reader interprets your writing based on the grammar you've used. And this is something, as I said in the video, that lots of non-native English language speakers forget about because they learned the rules a long time ago, and so when they're writing they tend to forget these rules. So I'm not going to go through them. You can see them there. If you want to find out more, please check out my video where I talk about that. I'll link that also below this video. Big questions, and here I refer back to the videos where I talk about glue words and legal prepositional phrases and so on. So have I used language which isn't necessary? We all fall into the trap of throwing in or using extra language because we think it might help, but it actually isn't important. So go back to your main message and your supporting messages and ask yourself, this extra information that I've somehow added in, does it help my main message? Does it help my supporting messages? If the answer is no, get rid of the language. Have I been consistent? So I've done a couple of lessons about being consistent as regards your abbreviations and as regards your definitions. So this is just a reminder about being consistent, because nothing says lack of professionalism more than inconsistency throughout the document. So different definitions, different forms of abbreviations, commas here, there, and everywhere, okay? So concentrate on your abbreviations and your definitions. Now, onto the review process. You've gone through your writing, you've planned it, you've chosen the grammar, you've presumably might be doing a first draft. Now, have I structured my writing? Is there a beginning, a middle, and an end? Have I used linkers to connect everything together, to give context to the writing, to provide flow to the writing? In the lesson where I talk about linkers, I say you've got to take the reader by the hand and guide them through your writing. Using linkers allows you to do exactly that, and it adds context and coherency to your writing. So, have you structured your writing? Have you designed your writing so it's clear and memorable? Okay, so here we're talking about document design, we're talking about short sentences, clear paragraph structures, headings and subheadings, tables, charts, and white spaces. Don't send blocks of text. Okay, just don't. Think about how you can break up your writing so it's clear, then it becomes memorable because the reader can remember, aha, that's where I found it. It was in this email, it was in a table, or it was in this bulleted point list. Readers remember visual clues. Use visual clues, or at least organize your writing in such a way that it's easy to work through. Basic things, but something that you might forget about. Have I used a spell checker? If you're writing on Word, use the spell checker on Word. If you're writing on a different word processing program, use the spell checker there. If you want to use Grammarly, then please do so if it's appropriate to do so. That is to say, if the document is not confidential and that you are used to dealing with Grammarly's corrections, because not all of Grammarly's corrections are corrections that perhaps you would want to choose. So use Grammarly with caution. And then finally, have I done a final review? So I've said here, take a break, review your writing, and the break is important. Just that 5 minutes, cup of coffee, move away from your computer, move away from your writing, and try to come back to it with objective eyes. And then, after that process, you can think about sending it. So once you go through that question process, here are some easy ways to further improve your writing. And these are things that you should not use. And I've done lessons on all of these things. So please go check them out. In the video description below this video, if you're watching on social media, you will find a list of all of my lessons. So look for these things. If you're following me on Patreon, you'll see pinned to the first page on Patreon a list of all of the lessons. So make sure you go and check out the individual lessons. Don't use shall, don't use and or, don't use provided that. This is all ambiguous language. Use alternatives instead. Don't use revert, please advise, I would appreciate it if. This is lazy business jargon. It doesn't help the reader. In most cases, you can replace it with an indirect question form using a strong verb. Don't use legalese. Think about the preposition you are going to use with your legalese. So for example, if you say herein, so the preposition is going to be in, and then think about what is in what. So in this case, it's in the document, in the agreement, in the section, in the paragraph, whatever it might be. By doing that, by thinking about the preposition and then thinking about the source, whichever document it might be, and you write in that way, I promise you, it's going to be a lot more accurate and a lot clearer and a lot more professional than using legalese, which not many people understand, and which is also a real pain to translate. Don't use kindly for other people's actions. So I did a video about this just recently. You can refer to your actions as kindly. So for example, as I give 2 examples here, could I kindly request? Yes, of course. You can be kind about your own actions, although it is a little bit old-fashioned and perhaps you don't need to say it, but if you have to say it, at least say it about your actions. Please don't say it about other people's. You can't tell other people to do things kindly. I give you an example here. Could I request that you kindly send me this, whatever it is, okay? It's misuse of English and it sounds a little bit silly, to be honest. And then at the bottom I've included common legal prepositional phrases which can easily be replaced by an alternative word, normally just a single preposition. So in order to, in the event of, on the basis of, with regard to, for the purpose of. All of these are commonly found in legal English and don't need to be there. Okay guys, that was a speedy summary of my style guide. Of course, there are better style guides out there. I'm sure there are. I'm not saying that my style guide is the most comprehensive, but out of all of the documents I've reviewed over all of the years that I've been working as a proofreader and a copy editor, if the people who had written those written documents, if they had followed my style guide, I would have a lot less work. And it's as simple as that. That style guide reflects about 90 to 95% of the problems that I have to deal with as I'm proofreading documents. Either they haven't gone through the process of asking themselves questions before they've started writing, or indeed after they've written the document, and they've used language which simply should not be used for a number of different reasons. So I think, from my point of view, that's as comprehensive as I can be on one side of A4, something that can sit by your computer that you can quickly refer to. I didn't want to write a 20 or 30 page style guide because I know that people need time to go through longer documents and get used to that. So I wanted to go for a quick reference guide, really. Something that you can keep by your monitor right there, and you can quickly have a look at, okay, I shouldn't use that, I should use that, okay? And just by doing that, you will be improving your writing. Okay guys, if you've got any questions or comments at all about my basic style guide, if you think I can improve it in any way, please don't be shy, leave a comment below or get in contact with me and I will update that style guide. And as I said, if you want to get access to the style guide, print it off and get access to all of my other resources on my Patreon page, please think about supporting me on my Patreon.